So yeah, he phoned me up a couple of weeks ago. Well, he messaged me a couple of weeks ago to congratulate me because on the 9th of December I was 19 years clean. So there's a bit of recovery on it. I wasn't available then, but I was available for this one to come down and share. And I'll just talk a little bit about that, like just for a couple of minutes hopefully, and then get into the step 9. You know, I haven't had to relapse as a result of coming to Narcotics Anonymous since the first week. Not my first meeting. I had a couple of days I was doing withdrawals from a lot of opiates and benzos and crack. I know it's not about the drugs, but they were the things that brought me in here. And I came in here because I couldn't deal with the guilt of what I've just been doing for 20 years, but the last year was pretty much, you know, I was driven in here by the shame and the guilt. Drugs would no longer work in terms of doing what I needed them to do. Because my understanding, like, apart from the disease of addiction, how it manifests, the components of it, is that drugs do something to me and they do something for me. And they're two very different things. Drugs did have a physical effect on me, although I used to deny that. It's fucking shit, this gear done nothing to me. I need more. Still doing nothing. Oh, it's nothing. And but what they did for me was they took the edge off the world that I lived in. They gave me a sense of power and they made me forget who I was, the life I was living, and the past that had been, but also more importantly, it put a veil over the future. And what was involved in that was a lot of denial, because I was living this terrible, degrading life full of misery, degradation and loss, going out on a daily basis to commit harm. To be fair, like that in the previous step in the basic text, it was like these descriptions of harms, and I was like, that was a good day, that was a good day, I was winning. You know, that was my attitude towards things at that point. And so they've stopped doing what I needed them to do. And the shame and the guilt that I was under, the weight of it. I remember, so I'd lost my veins because I was an IV user, and I was sitting there just like, I was smoking some heroin, and the tears were running down my face and hitting the foil. It was going into the oil, not running properly. And I was just like, that he fucking didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. And I'll tell you what that was. So that was my stepdad, who brought me up since I was about 6 years old. And he'd done his best by me, I sort of see now. He instilled in me some values of like being like a hard-working person, diligent and responsible, and I stole. It was just unfortunate for him and me, and at the time, so I went and burgled his house on a resentment, and he had like close to 50 grand in cash. That was his life savings to be put somewhere else, and I discovered it, and I fucked off. And more details of that story was, I was with some girl I hardly knew, some crackhead, and she fucked off for most of it the first night. I thought it was under me pillar, and she's fucking off with it. There's a few stories around that, like me catching her at Manchester airport, and it's frightening the fucking life out of her. I was like, I'm fucking here. And well, anyway, so they're phoning me saying, just give it back, and I'm like that thinking, I can't fucking give it back, most of it's gone. So I've just got off on my toes, like just running from my life, and ended up the other side of the world, and then getting deported after being incarcerated over there. I've got a little amendments to talk about with that as well. And so anyway, it was a shit show. The drugs weren't working anymore. I couldn't get rid of that guilt, and I ended up in London a year after that event, or close to a year after that event, and I'd managed to build some sort of little life for myself where I'd done withdrawals from opiates with some builders in West London, and then it all come falling down again, and I'm using just the same way, you know what I mean? I didn't understand that, like, it wasn't about stopping. It was about finding the tools and the power necessary to stay stopped. I always focused on the stopping. If I just stop, I'll be able to do this. I had no idea what I suffered from, like that obsession to use. Once that was on me, I would be, nothing would stop me. Once that obsession kicked in, I'd step over my children and partners. I'd sell them. Once the obsession's on me, once I start using the drugs that I like, then I'm off and running. Yeah, and I didn't realise that whole process of living like that was killing me spiritually. That last aspect of the disease of addiction, I was so self-centered. I didn't see the pain and the harm that I caused others. I was one of them that told myself that when I'm away from them, they can't see what's happening. It's not harming anyone. When obviously there is still that worry, concern and everything else. So at the end of me using though, the obsession to use vanished and the obsession to kill myself appeared. So that's what the disease of addiction, my understanding, is trying to back me into that corner where I wanted to try and kill myself. I didn't know how to do it. I had a friend, one person, a using friend, but we were started as kids. The only person in the world, and this is how far back it was a Victoria station with a 20p piece for the phone. It's fucking £1 now, isn't it? Hey, imagine it like, you know, when you're phoning the dealer up. Hey, you've got to put £1 in. Fucking definitely short now. Then it takes 2 hours. Fucking hell, he'd be down to like fucking £4 by the time. You coming? Anyway, gone on one then, didn't I? Tangent. Yeah, phoned him up. I was like, Dad, John, can I come back to yours? He went, fuck off. Put the phone down. This is a childhood friend. He just wasn't willing to have me there. It was too dangerous for him because after doing that, because my family's a little bit naughty at times, there was like some money available if you could find out where I was, and more money if you could harm me. And so yeah, he wasn't interested. And so I was thinking, how do I kill myself? And I thought, like, I can't OD. I'd come to the conclusion I was some form of chemical processing plant. Because the amount of times I weren't supposed to wake up, and then you wake up and you're like, shit, got nothing. What am I going to do? Obsessions. All over again. Off and at it all over again. And I'd been told somewhere along the lines that, like, drowning, once the initial shock was over, it was supposed to be like falling off to sleep. And I thought, that sounds like the way to go. But it was winter. And the Thames there, it was a bit fucking cold. And as a heroin addict, I was scared of water. Like going through reception in jail and being forced to get in the shower. I was like the witch off Wicked, I'm melting. I think I was more scared of that than the rattle going through reception. So the part of me was like, oh, you have to wait for spring, for the weather to get better. And But what happened was, I was in that rock bottom at the time, and I believe I'd done the first 3 steps in that rock bottom. I won't go into that now, but like I just suddenly from nowhere, for the first time in my life, a thought came in, I can't do this. There's got to be something else. And I was in a hostel and I was put out onto the street. I only had this one night in the hostel. And I went looking for something else and found NA a couple of days later. So higher power, I didn't understand it working in my life long before I understood it. But when I then landed in the meetings, and I was, after a couple of weeks, I started going to the step meeting regularly, and I was looking at them steps on the wall. They're there, aren't they? The first 3, like I said, I thought, I'm sure I've done them. Because everyone kept talking about working the steps without fucking telling you what that meant. And I worked the steps, and I worked the steps, and I'm thinking, what do you fucking mean? Is there a secret to this? And this wasn't everywhere at the time. This come out the same year, the official version, as I arrived in NA, so it wasn't everywhere. And but I've seen them other steps, 8 and 9, and I thought, that was my first experience of steps 8 and 9 was, well, I can't fucking do them, right? And like if you can do them, you didn't use like I did. That was my thought process around it, but I was fortunate enough I didn't have anywhere else to fucking go. So I had this in my head that I will keep coming and we'll talk about that at some point, like when I get there. Because they'd also mentioned the step 4, which said you list everyone you've ever harmed. I was like, what? Fucking hell, like I said earlier, I've been crossing the door each day for decades to harm people. Like looking for people, actively looking for people to harm. Like that was my job each day when I woke up. I've got nothing. Like, they've got stuff. They don't need it as much as I do. And yeah, so that was like thinking, I thought that's going to take years. And remember, that was before this was so popular, because it fucking does take years sometimes, doesn't it? No judgment there, really. So I've worked through the steps, eventually getting to what happened was I was homeless. I managed to get into a men's 12-step rehab, where it was a peer-led one, and the main thing you did was step work and meetings, and I had to get service, and you had to do all those different things, and then start off on that journey. And then after 6 months of that, and then engaged with my sponsor, because I had my sponsor, but he was temporary until I'd left treatment, because he didn't want one organisation to be managing my life and then the step work to manage his life. So he said, when that you've completed that, we'll go on step work. I heard him share many a time since that he was hoping I'd have forgotten about asking him. He said he didn't want to sponsor a scouser, he said. The best thing he ever did. And so I won't talk too much about the... Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about 8. I'll just try and stick with the 9 and some of my experiences around that. So the biggest ones on it, obviously, were, for me, the world I inhabited and the harms that I caused. The deepest and most guilt-laden ones were to my immediate family, like I was saying, my stepdad there. And unfortunately, he died about 2 years ago. But unfortunately, I was never ever in a position to make amends to him because of that thing of causing harm to him. He was not interested in any shape, way or form in any sort of like forgiveness or resolution with me. Right up to that end, my name wasn't allowed to be mentioned in any family circles, and I still feel quite emotional about that, because it's something that I've had to live with for like 20 years. I've had to learn to live with that. It's not it says in there sometimes, like family and well-wishers, and they celebrate with you your clean time. They didn't give 2 fucks. And the rest of me extended family there, that like my stepbrothers and that, none of them are interested in anything that I might have done or turned my life around or anything of that nature, which is a bit of a strange one, because I've got a friend who sadly he's out there using again at the minute, but he moved down here after me, and he followed in my footsteps, and he was doing well, and he was working in service and everything else. He's got this really beautiful, poignant story around doing step 9 with my stepdad. I used to sit there going, and, but yeah, I've had to learn to just live with that, because I wanted that, like I can't remember what's that prodigal son thing. I wanted to be able to go back and amend what I'd done within that family unit, like all the things that I'd done wrong, forgetting about what happened, you know, because in my head, in addiction, I was just driven by the resentment of some of the things I experienced that maybe shouldn't have happened, but like that's not a judgment on them from me. It's just like other people who professionals say that shouldn't have happened to you in a family unit. But I come from a dysfunctional family, like a lot of people, so I'm not gonna I found that hard to hear and listen to, actually. Some of that's just to do with my own lack of self-worth. So that's the one around my stepdad, that one that brought me into recovery. I just had to build character and accept the fact that there wasn't going to be a happy ending with that story. The next one, so he was number 2 in my step 4. You know, like shining. Who are the main characters in step 4? Number 1 was my mum, and like she was quite a violent alcoholic from Glasgow. That was like I suffered a lot of physical and mental torture from as a kid growing up, and but she died from alcoholism like when I was 27, and so that one I remember writing about it in a step 4, and I was in a garden in South London 10 years after she died, and in that step 4, just seeing that she was as powerless over her addiction as I was, and coming to terms with, like, I don't say she'd done the best with what she had type things, because that's a little bit, I'm like thinking, well, fucking no, you could have done fucking better. I suffered a lot of fucking torment. That wasn't okay, and although, like, I've made peace with that part of her, and I've been able to let go of the resentments with it and have a more loving relationship with her in the past, and because my resentments always cloud any good moments, and there was good moments and there was loving moments, so so I tried to fix on them instead, and I was writing about it and crying like 10 years after she died, and I was grieving without drugs in me for the first time, and sort of healing that relationship. And so what I was able to do was, like, write a letter to her. I had to go back to where I'm from, to the graveyard, and it was still quite risky for me, but I couldn't avoid that through fear of what might happen to me, like it says in the guidance there. So I went back up home where I'm from, and I just read out the letter. It wasn't even a graveside. My family didn't get her cremated or buried. I had to go up and get her ashes out of the junk cupboard a year after she passed, and I just buried them in some earth in the grave with some mementos of her mum. It was clasped hands with a rosary, and but next to me nan's stone, but they hadn't kept up the payments on that because you pay after 10 years again, don't you? So that was gone. But being there, putting those actions in, and that process in the step 9, and reading it out and saying a prayer and talking to that memory of her, it was really powerful and moving for me in that moment. I was crying again, loads of fucking crying, and but there was something quite healing and freeing in that process. And in this step working guide, moving on in the step 9, it talks about how did it feel when you made those amends. And I do it with my sponsees now, that they were the actions of a courageous person with dignity, respect, faith, all these things, and all these are the assets that I have within me. And what I believe happens in this process is I come to know the whole of me, because I understand my defects through 6, bit 7 and into 8 and all of 4. I understand what makes my character defective. I don't have any character defects. I have character traits that are blown out of proportion by fear. That's what I have. And I'm a living embodiment of those assets when I perform step 9 formally. And before that, I could sit here and say that, you know, I'm all them fucking assets that I just said, but more to do with I can't think of that. Selfless in some ways, compassionate to others. I've got awareness and a growing concern for the welfare of others. It talks about what happens as a result of working this program. But until I've actually physically done amends, it's all theory. You know, because I could say I'm all those good things, and then my head would go, what about all them shithouse things you've done? Yeah, I've got no defence against that until I've done a formal amend, and I can hold up myself to that and say, I'm this. I'm a person who wants to amend, make restitution, and do what's right in this world. That's what I am. I'm not driven by fear and selfishness and self-centeredness. They're there, but I'm not driven by them. And that's where I start experiencing, like, the freedom that this program talks about in stages all the way through, is each step that I work. How long have I got left? Nothing. Yeah. I've got one with my brother as well. And I'll just quickly tell you this. It says in the basic text here, we make these amends when the opportunity presents itself. But that's not the first time I see them, when they're still burning from my misdeeds. I had to make indirect amends with my brother. He had a pub in West London, I had no idea. I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. And I spent a year going round each Saturday, doing odd jobs for him in his pub and building a relationship. Fucking watching Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway, couldn't fucking stand it. But I committed to it, do you know what I mean? Then he was in a place to hear that amend. Unfortunately, sadly though, through the death of our biological father, he doesn't want to talk to me again anymore, because he doesn't have a programme, he doesn't need one. And that's just something else I learned to live with, because I get all my needs met here. You know what I mean? So I had more to say, but like, it's 20 minutes. I just want to say that, you know what I mean, part of the process of getting restored to sanity, and it said there, my effectiveness in my relationship with others and the world I live in. I am a productive member of society. I found myself that my daytime job, I'm in a fortunate position where I help others and I build them. You know what I mean? I help them with education and training and put faith into them that they can change their life and the way they do and see things. That's outside of NA. I've got sponsorship as well, so I'm fortunate enough to be able to do it in recovery, make amends to society, be productive. I will say this though, when I was a newcomer, I used to say things like, I'm not stealing anymore. That's an amend to society. It's like wanting thanks for not using drugs, isn't it, when you're a newcomer? You're not supposed to in the first place, you dickhead. So, I will leave it on that, yeah. Alright, thanks for letting me share.
Thanks.